internas, pero ya no las podemos pasar, así que solo decir que si la política industrial está renaciendo, lo que habría que hacer desde un punto de vista libertario es clavarle una estaca en el corazón, abrirle la cabeza con una pala, hacer una fosa más grande y asegurarse de que no renazca nunca más. Muchas gracias.
Does this have a laser pointer?
It's over here. It's way.
Okay. So hello everyone, my name is Andreas Kramer. I'm from Vienna, Austria. I apologize for not speaking Spanish, but I'll spare you German. The language Germany is not a language for economics anymore, but as I see the development here in Madrid, Spanish seems to become more and more the language of economics. And I did the master's in Austrian economics 4 years ago, and I'm now doing the PhD on the political economy of Vienna around 1900, and this is part of my research. So the topic is the gold standard in Austria-Hungary. I have no slides?
No, because you probably sent
it was too late. Okay, that's a shame. Austria-Hungary, that was the empire which lasted from 1867 to 1918, and it was headed by the Habsburgs, as all Austrian empires, and Austria-Hungary under Franz Joseph I and Empress Elizabeth. And Austria-Hungary was the third biggest empire, if you will, at the time, and they had my subtitle is The Foundation of Civilization, the gold standard, question mark. Civilization was Austria-Hungary civilized. For most people here, this is maybe out of question, but in Austria, civilization begins with social democracy, of course. But in Austria-Hungary, especially in the 1960s, up until the First World War, we had a tremendous explosion of population, of buildings, and can show you now the Vienna was expanded a third or even longer or even more, and it was a hotbed of ideas. Most of science, which came after the First World War, was dominated by thoughts which came from Vienna, especially. Vienna was the center of Austria-Hungary, also the center of the economy, and so what kind of monetary system did they have? They had a silver standard, which till 1892, which was very volatile. In the beginning of the 19th century, most European powers had used silver as money, and it must add in addition, as most of you know, that one of the great intellectual achievements of Austria-Hungary was many schools of thought, and specifically, of course, the Austrian School of Economics. And Karl Menger, the founder of the school, was the personal tutor of Crown Prince Rudolf, which was son of Franz Joseph, so if you will, the second most important man in this empire, and the two most important students of Karl Menger, Friedrich Wieser and Böhm Bawerk, were not only academically very important but also politically. And so Karl Menger went from a journalist in the Vienna Stock Exchange, realizing that the economic theory did not help him explain what was happening in the stock exchange, to a professor and to tutor of the Crown Prince, and his main two students, Brambavek and Visa, were not only academically extremely successful, but also went up to the highest ranks in the Austrian government. And especially Brambavek, who was finance minister 3 times, and Karl Menger, when the Austrian government was consulting if they should switch to a gold standard, which the other empires in the world already did, Karl Menger was one of 35 people which were asked to advise the government, and he was one of the most prominent ones. And he was in favor of a gold standard, but it was not a gold standard as Austrian economists see it, as a market evolved gold money, but a government imposed gold standard. By chance, yesterday was the 200th anniversary of the Austrian Central Bank. It's founded 1816. Before that, the government, the monarchs had to borrow from the private market, and after that, they had their central banks, and so they consulted and decided to implement a gold standard. And it was difficult. Karl Menger didn't write much. He has 2 books, The Principles of Economics and his book on method, and the rest are articles. And a lot of these articles are on this enquête commission, which was there to consult on the gold standard. And surprisingly, you see on the one hand Menger as a very theoretical genius theoretician, but then as a quite pragmatic political advisor. But he always had his clear sight for the theory and the ideas, and so it is, one must say, to a very large extent, of course, also the surroundings and then the general classical liberalism which prevailed to degrees also helped, but it was thanks to his tireless work that this gold standard was implemented. Not perfectly as any government intervention of this size, but his students helped with that, and especially Brambavek, and so the gold standard was implemented in 1892, and it had. I would show if you have a few charts that the time when Brambavek was finance minister or worked for the finance ministry, he worked in and out. It wasn't 4 years because he was a year there and then he was out in academia. He didn't like politics, it drained all his energy, but he went out of sense of duty, and it also helped him in academia. And so they during his time there was almost a full backing of the crown, which was then called the gold currency, and when he left, it dwindled, and before 1914, where of course everything collapsed, had a small spike, and so when we were working historically, sorry not to show you what effect the gold standard had. It was by far not perfect, but what was tremendous was the stability it brought to the currency. You could clearly see that till 1892, and then there was a big appreciation of gold. So there was a spike, but then it was almost flat compared to what came after and before and after, and that was right around 1900, where all the art, the music, the scientists proliferated in Vienna, and there was quasi a golden age and the Belle Epoque. And even if it was not perfect, this stability created so much of value, and it was thanks to no other but then the founders of the Austrian school, to a large extent, and they couldn't hinder what was coming after. But nevertheless, this was an example in history that things can go better even if they were not ideal, and as a motivation for us to keep working. Thank you.